Hi, welcome to Relax and Chat, episode 26. Today I have the extreme pleasure of chatting with Leslie Kirk. I'm sure you've heard of him, an extreme horror writer, extremely talented. Got a couple books out. One of his books, Appalachian Siren, is a hillbilly romp of horror and laughs. It's a fantastic book. It's available on Amazon, and of course, I'll have the link down in the description. Another book that Leslie has written is called Concubine Dreams. And in this one, he takes his fantastic extreme horror writing ability and blends it with paranormal scary. And that's a hell of a ride you guys will really enjoy. I'll put the links in the description for both of them. And in addition, Leslie did a story for the RDG Books Horror Anthology Volume 1. It's Dark in Their Minds. And the story that he did is Ice Cream Man. Now, Leslie, I've got to ask you, what was the inspiration for that incredible story, Ice Cream Man?
Thanks for having me, Rod, and thanks for the kind words. Ice Cream Man, well, last winter, I was co-writing Concubine Dreams with my wife, and it was her first writing project, so she was going a little slower. I was looking for things to write to eat up some time that wouldn't be too immersive, and I wrote a bunch of shorts. I thought back to my youth, and I grew up with an older sister, and older siblings love to tease you and torment you, and she tried to instill fear of the Ice Cream Man in me, and said, "Oh yeah, he's creepy and he's a kidnapper," and I never really believed it, but yeah, it kind of started off that way, and I could, there was always back in the '80s. Stories about the van kidnappers, and we had to, watch videos on it and stay safe and how to, prevent yourself from getting kidnapped and that sort of thing. And, I remember thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, there could be a creepy Ice Cream Man. There really could be. The ice cream truck is, you could kidnap a bunch of kids and tie them up and leave them in the back. And that's kind of where this started. And I said it in Ohio in the '80s. One of the characters, the little boy Irwin, he was loosely based on not one person. I don't base characters on one person. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. I think that opens you up to lawsuits, or it just looks bad. But a combination of people, and where I grew up in Ohio was considered Appalachia, so we had a lot of poor families. There were families that didn't have electricity, didn't have running water. So Irwin was one of those kids, and those kids were treated differently by everyone else, even in supposedly these friendly small towns. They were ostracized, just for being poor. So that kind of took shape.
Now, a lot of writers don't realize if you write novellas or novels, many writers will think, oh, short stories, that's got to be a cakewalk, easy breezy, not even as hard as a poem.
Right.
When they sit down to write a short story, they find that it's quite different.
Right.
What do you think when you consider the differences between a novella or novel versus a short story? Do you find the short stories to be super easy, or are they kind of difficult because they have such a smaller word count?
I think they're less intimidating to sit down and write. You can put less of a commitment into it and accomplish something. You finish something with a short story. On to the short stories. Yes, they have their challenges. Short stories are mostly plot driven as opposed to character driven. Okay. You can't start out the day in the life of the character. He gets up, he has breakfast, he goes to the bar, meets his friend in the afternoon, plays pool in the evening. You can't, you don't have that time to build that atmosphere. You've got to jump right into it. And even a lot of horror small presses want action, want something happening that's devastating or prominent to happen within the first 900 words. If it doesn't, they read 900 words and they stop and they pitch it.
Yeah,
I've heard them say that. So you've got to keep moving. That pace has to be there, but you still have to develop characters. You can't neglect your characters. You can't have paper thin characters. They have to be interesting. And I a couple terms I hate when it comes to relating to characters. I hate the term morally gray, because that just means you're a human character. None of us are all good. None of us are all bad. We're all shades of gray in reality. You know, we all may have good intentions, but we do bad things. And there are very few truly purely evil people in the world in reality. And nothing destroys a story quicker than a character that is virtuous and perfect. That's just really boring. And the other term is likable. You know, I don't think characters need to be likable. They need to be interesting.
yeah,
Sometimes a character can be unlikable, but you want to see what they do next. And I think that's okay. You know, some of the best stories I've read had characters that you didn't really like, but you're still rooting them on, you know? But you know, short stories, yes, you can't babble on. You can't get into endless descriptions. You got to spit it out.
And what do you find, if anything, to be the biggest challenge? Because like a writer who does novels, decides, hey, I want to give short stories a try. And in the ones I've known, they really weren't prepared
Right.
for the challenges of writing shorts. When you're doing it, when you're actually writing that story, trying to make that word count and trying to make this story gripping, what do you find to be the most challenging part of writing a short story?
It's really coming up with the idea and then getting the motivation to sit down and write it. You know, with short stories, one of the ones I've submitted to you and you did not publish, I think it was the pyramid scam. And that one I was really struggling. I had a good start to it, got about 1,500 words in and then stalled. And I'm like, I knew where I wanted to submit it originally. And the minimum word count was 4,000. And I struggled and I struggled and I struggled. And then I almost overshot the word count after it was all said and done. It's really hard to describe, the differences, but yeah, they're very different. You really got to think in terms of plot, but you got to pepper in things about the character, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's a big difference that I see as an editor, every story that I've ever worked on. And it's extremely common. It includes me. I'm sure it includes you. Act 2, the middle of the book, is always where the biggest challenge is, where I struggle. It's just really hard because you've been writing for a long time, trying to get your story down, and all of a sudden you stall or you're not sure you're going. Yeah, that's a real challenge. And then I think that challenge is intensified in a short story because Act 2 is maybe 3 pages.
Right. Yeah.
You got to figure out how to make that happen, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think there's a huge difference in those different types of formats, and each one has their charms. I've read both of your books, of course, and I freaking love them. I think they're outstanding. I love the writing style, the voice. Charlene in Appalachian Sirens, come on. She is so incredible. That needs to be made into a movie. Surprised what somebody offers.
I was thinking maybe like a Max or Netflix series.
Heck yeah. If I had the budget, I'd already be working on it.
Well, if I get Rob Zombie's personal phone number, I'll give him a call and ask him to pick it up.
Yeah, fantastic story, really. And your story in It's Dark in Their Minds. Ice Cream Man's incredible because
Thank you.
it's got a really good surprise. I'm not going to give it away too much, but I think I described it once as a very unusual hero
Right.
because he does love the children.
Right.
And I won't say more because I don't want to ruin the story, but very creative, very gripping. There's no way to read that story and stop anywhere until the end.
Yeah.
And then you're wanting more. I mean, you did such a supreme job with that wonderful
Thank
story.
you.
Awesome, really awesome. All right, so just to move on, make sure we have time to chat. I do want to ask, what are you working on now? What kind of current projects are you doing today?
Well, I was working on a revenge story titled Yacht Wench. And it's, I don't know if it's going to be that extreme or not. The theme is, it's got a heavy theme to it, childhood trauma.
Oh,
And, I got through the first act, loved the first act, got into the beginning of the second act, liked it. And then I'm at a part right now in the second act where it kind of stalled. And I will pick it up. I'm also working on a non-horror. I guess it would be contemporary fiction. It's a very sad story, but it's not horror. And it's going to be written first person POV of a black Labrador.
oh,
And, yeah, and it's that one's a tough one because I can't get too far without tearing up because I know what happens.
oh,
And being a big dog lover, it makes it hard. But you know, and and writers, especially extreme horror writers, we get a lot of criticism. Oh, you're writing about your fetishes. You're such a weirdo. You're such a creep. How gross. How could you think of those things? And that brings me to a quote from Ernest Hemingway, and it's probably my most favorite Hemingway quote, and that describes it. Let me just pull it up so I quote it accurately. And it's let's see here. Okay. Write hard and clear about what hurts. Don't avoid it. It has all the energy. Don't worry. No one ever died of it. You might cry or laugh, but not die. And what that means to me is we write about things we hate. We write about things that cause us pain. We write about things that disturb us and bother us. Those anxieties that cause intrusive thoughts end up being murder scenes or sexual assault scenes. Just the things that really lurk in the back of your head. It's just like, oh, that's awful. I hate when that happens. I hate that about the world. And Through the Eyes of Benny is one of those stories. It's he's a very friendly, naive, trusting dog, and he has some good things happen to him, and he has some really bad things happen to him, and it's that one's very clear in my mind right now, and it's really just separating the reality from the fiction and getting down to it. And I also have plotted in my head the books 2 and 3 for the Appalachian Siren trilogy. I've had some people say they want a sequel, and the second one is going to be mindless extreme horror that ends on a cliffhanger, which means I can't publish the second one until I have the third one in editing, or I'm going to have a lot of hate thrown my way. Because for the most part, I really kind of hate cliffhangers myself, unless they're necessary. To me, I think a lot of times a cliffhanger means, when it's a cliffhanger that gives you no closure, like a murder mystery, and there's 4 mysteries going on, and we got a cliffhanger and none of the mysteries were solved. We got to give me something. Come on, you've got to do something. And it's almost like, well, maybe these 3 books should have been 1 novel and you should have cut something, I don't know. That's just an opinion, I suppose. But everybody has their reason for why they write, what they write, how they write. And I appreciate and respect all those as long as they're human. So, there's room for all that. I will say that. So.
Yeah. Well, sounds wonderful. I'm really looking forward to more of Appalachian Sirens.
Yeah.
I hope Charlene continues on. She's freaking awesome. An amazing character. One of the best characters I've read.
Oh, thank you.
In recent years. Very well developed. You really know who she is. You feel like you know her. You feel like you're walking alongside her. I mean, you developed that character so wonderful.
Thank you.
Fantastic work. And, a huge fan. Eager to see what you publish next. Very, very much so. Okay, we only have a little time left. So I need to ask, how can readers find you? I'll put links down in the description, but for those who may not be able to see the description, perhaps a website or a social site where they might be able to say hello.
Probably the best place is to look me up on Facebook. I've got a regular Facebook profile, Leslie Kurt. If there is another Leslie Kurt, it's easy to determine which one's me. I also have a page if you don't want to really be a Facebook friend with me. Understandable, fine. I have a page, author Leslie Kurt, where I'll post announcements and stuff. I'm on Goodreads, on Twitter, I'm on Reddit. I am. Let's see what else. I'm on TikTok. I don't post a lot on TikTok. I probably should, but I'm there. I do have a website, lesliekurt.com. I can't promise that won't change. I kind of sign a contract with the wrong provider, and now they own the rights to domain, and I really want to switch providers from hosting providers, and I might have to give that domain up, but I'll do my best to make the announcement. So again, for now, best place to look me up is Facebook, either my profile or my page.
Awesome. Well, as life happens, I'm sure your time is limited, and I'm afraid ours is too, but
excellent.
An absolute pleasure to speak with you and to get your insights on writing short stories, novels and novellas. I'm sure that the information you provided in this video is going to be very helpful to new writers in particular. And I'm a fan of human writers.
Absolutely.
I'm there to try to help them as much as I can be. Real pleasure to have you on the show, and I certainly hope you'll come back again sometime.
Sure thing. Pleasure was all mine.
Awesome. All right. Well, hold on just a minute, and we'll talk a little. To the audience, I hope you've enjoyed this wonderful episode. Leslie Kurt is an extreme horror writer, and I'll put his books up on the screen again as we close. And look up his work. Look up It's Dark in Their Minds. You'll be really entertained with this very talented writer's stories. They're freaking awesome. I wouldn't lie to you about it. This guy can write. So everybody have a wonderful day, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.
Bye, y'all.